there's small things I can think of straight off the bat. But for instance, I remember growing up and my mother always saying, never cut your fingernails after dark. And I, to this day, probably have never cut my fingernails after dark. And I thought about it, and I researched this a little bit. It doesn't appear in my novel, but I was interested in why on earth do a lot of Iranians think that you can't cut your fingernails after dark? And the origin, I believe, of this superstition it was in the era pre-electricity. You know, people would actually get hurt, you know, utilizing scissors and cutting their, you know, fingernails or toenails or whatever in the dark, or with kerosene lamps or whatever they used. I don't know, but it seemed to me that was the reason, and I love that. I love that sort of folklore. But there's tons of stuff like that. I mean, I grew up as a child completely neurotic because of all these things my parents would tell me, these ancient cultural voodoo that was always sort of present in our household. And it made me very, very stressed out as a child. So how do you merge that with sort of modern living and trying to assimilate to this new world that you're in? It was very difficult for me. You know, I was very cognizant of learning English in the U.S. And it was very harrowing for me because I was always trying to sort of fit in and do it fast before anyone could notice the difference. But, you know, the minute kids would meet my parents, you know, the minute they entered the picture, it would seem like they would just unravel my whole guise in a bit. So I was always a little bit at odds with them, and I think that is definitely explored ad nauseum in the book.